Have you ever been so hooked on a show that you've watched every single episode of it in one sitting? Because I can say that I've not done that for many shows, but I did recently do that for one show. That show being Undead, Unluck. So, like I said before, I watched all 24 episodes of Undead Unluck in one go because I originally saw the trailer for it back in November, but I didn't know where to watch it since it wasn't on Crunchyroll and it wasn't on Netflix. So what I did was I forgot about the show. So then when I remembered the show existed, I went on a certain website, of which I shall not name, and I watched all 24 episodes in one go since they had just finished airing. The anime is based on the manga of the same name, which is written and illustrated by this guy, Yoshifumi Tozuka. And the studio that produces this anime and has animated it for us in such an amazing way is David Production, the people who have made beautiful anime such as Fire Force and JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. It follows the two main characters as they go on the quest to have a perfect death. Now, you might be thinking, who are these two main characters? Well, first you've got Unluck, which is Fuko Izumo. And then you've got Undead, which is Andy. That's it, that's his name. No last name or anything yet. Now, you might be wondering why I just use their nicknames to introduce them. Because not only do their nicknames go together in tandem to make Undead Unluck, it's also the name of what they negate. Now you might be wondering, what does that mean? Well, the way that the power system works in Undead Unluck is very, very different, since the powers of somebody is what they negate. It's what they get rid of, meaning that it's not the same as something like Naruto, which has chakra, or Jujutsu Kaisen, which has cursed energy. Instead, like I just said, they negate something. So, Fuko is Unluck. She gets rid of the luck of anyone she touches. And Andy is undead, meaning he can't die, and because of that, he also can't age, since aging leads to death. However, that isn't the only part of the power system that I feel is incredibly innovative. For instance, we see the world that they live in kind of looks similar to ours, except there's no stars, as you can see right there. This means that this world is different. And the reason it's different is because it is made up of things called rules. Now you might be thinking, we have rules in our world, but these rules are different. Because a rule, once it's added, changes the history of the world to the point where it's almost as if it always existed, even though it hasn't yet. For instance, we get to see the rule of galaxy being created, meaning that there are no stars, and then all of a sudden, there are stars. And that's just how rules work. It changes the memories of everybody who isn't a negator so that they feel like stars have always been a thing and space has always been a thing. That isn't the only thing that happens when a rule is added though, because when a rule is added, we also get an UMA, which is an unidentified mysterious animal, which is basically the personification of a rule. For instance, we have this guy. His name is Spoil. Uma Spoil, to be exact. He is the personification of the rule Spoil, which is essentially decay, meaning that whilst he's alive, decay exists. People decay, plants decay, food decays. However, if this Uma was killed, then the rule of decay would disappear. Everything would just stay how it is forever. Each person can only negate one rule, meaning that a negator, for instance known as Unchange, negates the rule of change. This, however, isn't always a positive, because to gain the ability to become a negator, you have to go through a traumatic event, whether that be somebody called Unmove, who stops his family from moving and gets his family hit by a truck, or somebody like Fuko, who kills her family because she accidentally gives them unluck before they go on a plane. This causes the negators to not actually want their powers. They'd rather live a happy life as just normal humans without even knowing of the powers or that God exists. For instance, when Fuko and Andy meet, the two main characters, we see that Fuko is preparing to end her life. She's just finishing her favorite manga, and then she decides that she's going to jump into a train and kill herself. Andy sees this, however, and is quite curious. He doesn't want to save her or anything, but he does want to know what's going on. So he goes up to her and carries on going up to her until he carries on going up to her and gets stabbed. This scares Fuko. She's like, oh my god, what is going on? This guy I've just stabbed. I'm so sorry, but you were scaring me. That doesn't stop Andy, however, because he then touches Fuko to try and stop her. But this gives Andy unluck, and the ground breaks below his feet, and he falls. A train hits him, and his severed head appears in front of Fuko. Now, Fuko thinks that she's killed Andy, but Andy is undead, meaning that Andy is actually amazed by Fuko's powers. And he starts to think, what if Fuko can give him the perfect death through the use of her unluck? Therefore, Andy and Fuko go on an adventure to, like I said before, give Andy the perfect death. During the first few episodes, Andy and Fuko are hunted down by the Union, which is a group of 10 negators which hunt down other negators such as Andy or Fuko. Now, Andy and Fuko end up killing 2 of their members, meaning that 2 spaces are open in the Union. Therefore, they join the Union, and that is when we are introduced to the main cast. Now, when we are introduced to the main cast, we also are introduced to the proper main goal of the story. The one that everybody is working towards. Killing God. Now, you might think that the Union are terrible people. I've just told you that they hunt down other negators, and I've also told you that they just want to kill God. However, that's not actually true, because in actual fact, the reason why the Union are hunting down God is because God is giving people negator powers, so that they can see people suffer. Therefore, the Union, whilst hunting down other negators, they're actually trying to recruit them, not kill them. It's just that the negators that they come across are not nice people. So, they recruit negators in the attempts to kill this guy. The Sun. God. We then see, until about 17 episodes or so in, that they are working towards their goal of killing God, and they are making good progress. But that doesn't mean that it's smooth sailing, though, because we see that one of the members of the Union, specifically this guy, Billy, he has decided to create his own union of some sorts called Under, which unironically appear from underneath the Union, and they steal the round table. Now, the reason this has been done is because the leader of the Union, Unjustice, she has a lot of secrets. She has this round table that seats 10 negators. She knows God exists. She knows how to defeat God. And she also has a book that can predict the future and can also tell them when Umas are going to appear. Therefore, he steals the round table, and he declares that he is going to be the one to kill God. Kill this guy. Again, this guy. We'll get onto that. Unjustice then apologizes for keeping secrets, and she tells everyone that this world that they live in is on a loop. And they are on loop 99 out of 100. They have one more chance before God ends it. You see, the way the world works is God himself, well, themselves, because there's 2 gods. There's God, and then there's female God. You know, that's just how it goes in Undead Unluck. They have decided to play a game. The guy God is like, oh, I'm going to kill humans. Humans are useless. And the girl God is like, actually, I think humans can beat you. So we're going to play a game, see who wins. And they have 100 chances to beat God. This being loop 99, however, means that God is drawing close. And if they can't defeat God, then everybody will die, the loop ends, and that's it for everyone. Unjustice says that another person goes through the loop with her, but last time she sealed his memories, and he hasn't been himself. That person is Andy. Yeah, the reason Andy doesn't have a last name is because he used to be called Victor, and he was the person who went through all 99 loops with Unjustice, but he wanted to kill Unjustice because He doesn't want to see the woman he loves suffer for the 99th time or even 100th time if she doesn't succeed. We then find out that only one person can loop. However, there's a loophole in that. Yeah, little joke, drums in the background. We find out that there's a loophole where the person who was undead, albeit in the 99 cases before, it was Victor, this time it's Andy, they can go through the loop, since the loop itself is the world being destroyed and then rebuilt the exact same 4.6 billion years later. The looper, they just time travel 4.6 billion years in an instant. However, one thing leads to another, under fight union, and we see that everybody teams up to fight against God. And do they win? Not so much. They actually get thrashed. They have no chance at all. So, what happens is Fuko and Andy go and talk to Unjustice. And Unjustice tells them that Andy and Fuko are now the key to killing God. Because Fuko's unluck can give God unluck, and Andy's undead, well, that's what Victor's undead was. It's the perfect duo to work together to defeat God. So, instead of Unjustice going through the loop this time, we see that Fuko goes through the loop. And that's it for the world. It went back to square one. This is a massive deal, because like I said, it's gone back to square one. We're basically at chapter 1 of Undead Unluck Part 2. Undead Unluck Re, if you will. And this means that the characters we knew, we don't know them anymore. And they aren't the same people, but they kind of are the same people because they're the same souls, they just don't have the same memories. And this time, the story also focuses on Fuko more than it focused on Andy. Now, this, for me, felt like such a massive win. Because, like I said, I binged all 24 episodes of Undead Unluck, and I was there like, dude, this is a good show. It was nothing to write home about, but it was a good show. And then to risk it and put everything back to square one, it just solidified for me Undead Unluck being one of the best shonen. I got the same feeling with Undead Unluck doing this that I got for Tokyo Ghoul moving into Tokyo Ghoul Re. That being, Tokyo Ghoul Re is my favourite manga ever, so safe to say, I love this so much. We don't see Fuko when she instantly goes through the loop. Instead, it jumps to about the year 2000, when we see Fuko go and talk to this guy, Nico. Now, I haven't mentioned Nico. I think I've shown him in the video in the photos of the Union earlier. However, this guy is unforgettable. He was the main scientist in the Union. And I decided not to focus on him earlier because the person he is earlier isn't the person he is now. He's granted the same soul and everything. However, this guy is much younger. He's not like the 50-year-old scientist we see. He's actually only 20 years old. And he works with Fuko to build the Union. We see that he's gone through a completely different life path now because he's with Fuko now. They're both building the Union together and growing it to the level that it has to be to kill God. The same thing happens with Unchange. Now, I haven't shown Unchange, but Unchange is one of the two people that Fuko and Andy killed to join the Union. But this time, instead of killing her to join the Union, they recruit her. And this time, instead of being in love with Andy, she's more of a best friend to Fuko, meaning that we get to see her in a happy light, rather than the negative light that we saw her when we were introduced to her in like the first 2 episodes of the show. Speaking of the 2 people that Andy and Fuko killed to join the Union, we have this guy, Unavoidable. Now, we didn't actually get to see what he looked like in the first loop, since he wore a massive mechanical suit that Nico had made for him. So, this time, it's so much cooler, because we not only see what he looks like, but we see his past. We see him awakening his powers. Now, the way this works is he was going to activate his powers by killing his opponent, because he activated Unavoidable, and since he activated Unavoidable, he deals a fatal blow and kills his opponent. You might be thinking, what does Fuko do in this situation? Well, what Fuko does is she actually replaces his opponent. That's right, she challenges this beast of a man to a boxing fight. And in this case, they fight, and they fight for a few rounds until unavoidable is activated. We then get what I think is an incredibly cool sounding fight known as a negator boxing fight. We see unluck versus unavoidable. We see the fight and it goes on for a while, but then it gets to the point where it's the final punch, and unavoidable hits Fuko and she gets knocked out standing up. She loses, but she also wins, because this not only is badass, but it also means that she has achieved her goal of activating unavoidable without causing any casualties. Now, this arc is short. It only lasts 3 chapters in the manga, and I've got to say that without a shadow of a doubt, it is my favourite arc in the series. We get to see Unavoidable, who I thought was a wasted character, and we also get to see Fuko shine, even more than she has in previous arcs, and I gotta tell you, it made me have a massive grin on my face. It was just incredibly amazing. At the time of me writing this, we have just found out about the 10 Master Rules, which is basically the equivalent of the 10 Commandments from 7 Deadly Sins. We also see that Nico has finally activated Unforgettable again against his fight with Uma Language, and that fight, I've got to say, just really quick, has become probably my second favourite fight, just behind the one against Unavoidable. With everything I've just talked about, I think there's proof alone that the manga is underrated, and the anime is even more underrated considering it's made by David Production, a well-known studio who make amazing anime. However, I think the reason that it's incredibly underrated is because it's locked in the depth of this hellhole known as Disney+. I think if it was on Crunchyroll or Netflix, it had the chances of becoming as popular as My Hero, or even Jujutsu Kaisen, and it could be seen as one of the best new gens around. I hope that if you've already seen the show, this video acts as a beacon of hope where you can send this to your friends, and then they can watch it, and then they can watch Undead Unluck, and then they can send it to their friends. So, with that being said, go watch Undead Unluck, and also, get me to 1 million subscribers by the time this video has been a week old, and, I think I'll make another video. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, like Markiplier. Bye-bye.